We're here at the Derby Tattoo Convention with Andrew May. How are you doing, Andrew? You enjoying the convention?
I'm doing well. It's been a lot of fun. I'm starting to get a bit weary now, but we're nearly at the end of the day.
And what do you like personally about a convention experience? Is it a business experience, a social or creative, or a mixture of all?
Well, it probably is a mixture of all. It's great to get out and show people what you're doing, but it's always really good that there's people around the country I don't see unless I'm at a convention, really, unless I specifically travel. So it's good to kind of get together, and it's a really nice social event as well. So.
And how would you describe your own artistic style?
Well, there's quite a few different things I'm interested in. I like to do tribal, Japanese, old school. I'm working on some quite unusual abstract work at the moment as well, but no one's really seen it.
Yeah. Yet to be released, is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in stores soon. But the primary things what I've been doing here today is kind of a style I've pretty much developed myself. I like to think it's original. You don't get many original things going on in tattooing, but that's kind of, it's based on old school. I think it evolved from traditional tattoos and then kind of prison tattooing and kind of lots of influences that have gone in here and then gone around and come back out of my hands. So that's more what I aim to do here. It's kind of it's a difficult thing to describe. Very black, very thick lines.
Yeah,
it's not neat and tidy. It's supposed to be quite rough and raw, but I think it doesn't lose anything for that.
It's still maintaining a bit of that kind of old school sensibility within it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, because they do. I mean, the artwork that I've seen so far is that very kind of sepia, thick-lined traditional. So where did you first discover that kind of artwork in your life? Like, where did you come across tattoo art first?
Probably growing up as a teenager, listening to heavy metal. I think was a bad influence.
Right.
All the musicians with long hair, beards, and tattoos, and the long hair's been cut off now, but the rest of it's present.
Okay, great. So, but just, if you say you're into rock and you're into metal, that's not necessarily maybe the imagery that you now produce artistically wouldn't be necessarily associated with that particular scene. So where did you find your kind of love of maybe all things old school, or where did you find the tradition, where did you discover the traditions of what you do now?
Well, I mean, as far as traditional tattooing goes, it was kind of getting into tattooing, and then you kind of explore around what's going on, and that was kind of what I eventually gravitated to. But I mean, the stuff I'm doing now in my own style is only very loosely technically based in old school tattooing. It's still using the same principles technique-wise, but the imagery has come from, it's quite an eclectic mix. There's kind of elements of kind of folklore and prison tattoos, and kind of there's a black metal undercurrent to it. There's quite a lot of dark humour in there as well, I think, and various imagery from everywhere that's come in and gone back out again. So it's.
But do you find the tattoo scene is evolving in that way? More artists are maybe taking more steps outside the kind of standard sets of genres within the tattoo industry. So Japanese, tribal, traditional. A lot of illustrative stuff happening, and people doing, as you were talking about, abstract stuff. Do you see a lot of that happening now?
Yeah, I see new things kind of coming all the time. Most of it is kept within, to some degree, a framework of one of the established genres, but something new kind of comes through every now and then. And I'm saying really original doesn't come along very often at all, but I think people are just pushing things in different directions and trying their own ways of doing it, or they're just striving for perfection in that established genre. So I think generally it's improving, and definitely, and it's great. I mean, as long as everyone does what they're great at themselves. I mean, it's kind of, there's a lot of copying. Bad copies are bad copies, as the famous man said. But I think generally we're heading in a good direction. Yeah, absolutely.
You work in a studio at Shangri La. What's the working atmosphere and like that? What's that like for a customer to come to? Like, why would they come to Shangri La?
It's a different experience. The Leslie, who I work for, is definitely put her own mark on the shop. It's quite an unusual decor inside, and
Any examples?
I use this example a lot. People often say, I don't know if that's a good thing, but I think it's kind of like halfway between a squat and a tattoo parlour. The polite way of saying it's like having a living room for a reception area. But
All right, okay. Yeah, so that is quite a unique experience.
But it's good. It's quite an eclectic place, and the two of us there very much work at opposite ends of the spectrum. So it's a good complementary kind of mix.
Yeah, so you're a good mix together. Okay, great. And with the convention scene in general, just back to the convention, sorry, do you travel around a lot? Do you go to many, or is it just specific ones you like to go to?
Well, I used to go to most of the UK ones when I first got into tattooing, but I kind of got a bit weary of them and ended up only going to the London convention for a couple of years. But this is actually the first convention I've worked. I spent 6 years not working conventions. I don't know, I think maybe it's the first year I felt I've really had something that I want to show people, that I'm not so much confident over, more that I'm actually proud of producing. So I think I've got the bug now, that I've bitten the hook, and I'll probably be around the country a lot more.
Right, so it's almost like you've been, the last few years, you've been doing almost a convention apprenticeship.
Almost,
yeah.
Yes.
Just tell us a little bit about your own apprenticeship, how you got into tattooing in the first place. Is it something that you decided to do and then just went and found a tattooist, or is it something you had no training in and picked up yourself, or is like how did you learn? You had every single type of stories. That's great.
No, that's don't. I'm just trying to think how to start. I got into tattooing because a friend of mine worked in a tattoo parlour as a receptionist when I was still doing A-levels. We were both going to go to university together, and I decided to take over his job. If it worked, great. If it didn't, I'd call it a gap year.
Okay.
Obviously, I never went to university, so here I am now.
Okay, so that is the story. So
that's the very abridged story. There were lots of back and forwards, ups and downs, and various underground activities, I'm sure. But the abridged version, that's the PC version. Yeah.
And as tattooing is a creative industry, what now is there? I mean, you're obviously an accomplished tattooist, doing great work, and you've obviously got this new style that we haven't yet seen as to come. Are there any things that kind of excite you about the forward journey now for you, like artistically? It's like, what are you looking forward to kind of maybe trying something new, or are you looking forward to doing a certain thing? Do you have any kind of goals in that area?
I think, it's always constant evolution. Because I draw so much, the style evolves. I think I'd like to tattoo more of the style I like to work in, because the shop I work in, it's a good mixture. I do a lot of walk-ins and then my own stuff fairly regularly as well. I'd like to do it more, because it feels like I draw so much stuff that never gets tattooed, and then after 6 months or so, it would probably be something I might not want to do. It sounds strange, but it helps you progress technically as well. I mean, I'm not a technical tattooer by any means. I wouldn't say I had the world's best technical skills, but I think that can be overcome by the strength of an image sometimes. So I think it's just kind of progressing through and just letting it naturally evolve and see what happens. So I think once the pleasure is in the journey, not in the destination.
All right, absolutely. So you're very, very happy just to kind of let it happen, evolve, and find your way around stuff like that. Okay, that's brilliant. Well, it's been absolutely lovely talking to you. Thank you very much for your time.
I could sit here for a long time trying to think of something to say that included the word tattoo TV. Oh dear, the mind has gone blank.